sure to go ahead and do that, as we will ask you to write your questions on these index cards, and we'll be reading them after our guests' presentations. So please do that if you haven't done so. All right. So, while the judge gave her verdict on the charges last Tuesday, the trial is far from over. The sentencing phase began on Wednesday, and it's expected to last for about 4 weeks of time. This is an important period, as 2 months that preceded the verdict. During this time, more evidence is presented to support the defense arguments, and more than 20 witnesses will be testifying for the defense view. I'm assuming that's not stuff. The aiding the enemy charge has been dropped, but there is no minimum sentence dictated for the 20 other charges. In the words of Mr. Coons, David Coons, the lead defense attorney, we won the battle, but the war is not over. Today, we are honored to have with us guests who have been following the Bradley Manning case from the beginning, and will shed the light on this historical trial. I am honored to introduce to you our panelists this evening. Mr. Chris Hedges is the author of War is a Force That Gives Us Meaning. He served as a war correspondent for the New York Times for 15 years. His writing now appears on Tuesday. He recently sued the Obama administration of the constitutionality of new detention powers in the National Defense Authorization Act. Professor Colonel West is the class of 1943 Professor of African American Studies at Princeton and Professor of Philosophy and Christian Practice at the Union Theological Seminary in New York City. He's an acclaimed author, academic, polemicist who speaks largely on matters of race, class, and injustice in America. But before we hear from Mr. Hedges and Mr. West, I'm honored also to introduce Nathan Fuller. Nathan is a New Jersey-based writer, editor, and activist. He studied documentary film and journalism at the College of New Jersey, where he edited a political news magazine. Nathan has been involved with the Bradley Manning Support Network for a very long time, and also he has been attending the court-martial every day, writing live reports of the proceedings from the media center. So.
Charged with 22 offenses initially, some with extremely broad theories and some with unprecedentedly broad theories. Bradley pled guilty to 10 of those. He took responsibility for giving documents to WikiLeaks, and that thing would have put him in jail for up to 20 years. But that wasn't enough for the U.S. government, who decided to spend 5 weeks attempting to equate whistleblowing with spying and try to crush Bradley's spirit and his future and the example that he set for holding government accountable. The military convicted Bradley Manning on one count of Computer Fraud and Abuse Act for simply using wget. It's a program that just automates the downloading of documents from the internet. Didn't give him any new access, but they decided that he was computer savvy now warranted 10 years in jail. Prosecutors attempted to use 8 and were successful with 6 counts of the Espionage Act. Law so incredibly broad that they only had to show Manning should have reason to believe that the documents he released could have cost him the U.S. or aided his adversaries. Meanwhile, they failed to convince the judge that, who had otherwise sided with the government for nearly the entire case, that Bradley had aided the enemy. And that's why we're left with the potential 136 years in prison, tantamount to a life sentence, if he does get all of it, for merely hypothetical harm. That's what we're looking at. And it is really hypothetical. We're now in the sentencing phase. Manning's defense is going to be able to show that Manning's releases did not cause harm to the United States, despite the fear-mongering rhetoric of all the highest people in power. People said he had blood on his hands, his release was a terrorist organization, essentially, and that has not been borne out in court at all. And these are from prosecution witnesses. The government witnesses have failed to really confirm what they've been saying all along. We have Brigadier General Carr, who reviewed the war logs and sources identified therein, and said no death resulted from the release of these Iraq and Afghanistan war logs. We've had Ambassador Michael Kozak from the State Department. He reviewed the diplomatic cables and their release, and saw human rights and democracy activists named inside. And they spent months and months trying to relocate some of them, working with some of them, fearing that they might be in danger. He could not cite one that had been killed as a result of these releases. He was asked flat out by the government, what is the greatest damage? And he said a chilling effect, that some of these sources were now reluctant